So today I want to talk about masculinity and femininity. I think it's very misunderstood in this day and age, and that's also represented in our media. You know, many female and male characters we see on the screen, they aren't showing really virtuous traits of femininity and masculinity, and I think they should more. And so, what are those traits? You know, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? And what are the traits which are virtuous? What are the traits which are toxic? So I think when it comes to masculinity, I think some virtuous male attributes, some virtuous masculine traits are strength, you know, courage, initiative, perseverance. You know, I think these are traits that should be celebrated and should be celebrated in men. You know, it's not something that's only in men, definitely not. I'll come to that in a second, but I think men who embody these traits should be celebrated. And that's not really celebrated too much these days in media. I think it is, you know, it's really skewed, and we'll come to that in a second. But feminine traits, you know, some virtuous feminine traits, I think grace, compassion, perception, understanding, you know, awareness. I think these are traits that should be celebrated in women. And, you know, this is also not shown in media today. I think when we look at strong, supposedly, female characters, you know, these days they show masculine traits, which is what that's signaling to the audience is, you know, women are strong when they inhabit masculine traits, which is, you know, that's nonsense. And I think this is what is so misunderstood, and it's the same with men. You know, I think when people think of a stereotypical masculine man, it's someone who is kind of selfish, if you think about it, you know. Yes, they might be courageous, they might be have perseverance, but they're also egotistical and indulge in certain behaviors, in certain selfish behaviors, which is not virtuous. And I think this is also my next point. When I mention these traits, these virtuous traits, they should both be in men and women, you know. I'm not saying only men should have these traits and only females and only women should have those other traits. No, I'm saying those are most prominent in males and females, you know. But they should both have them, because if you have a man who doesn't have compassion, who doesn't have empathy or awareness, whether it be of the people around him or of himself, you're gonna have one of those stereotypical males who is selfish and unaware and not compassionate towards others, and that's toxic. You know, that's a toxic masculinity, the actual toxic masculinity. But the same is true for women. You know, if you have a woman who doesn't have courage, or doesn't have strength, or not perseverance, but strength or courage, you know, to stand up for herself, then, you know, those women become pushovers, and that's also not good. You know, people will walk over them like they're a doormat. They will use them for their own good, you know, or be manipulative or whatever, and that's also toxic, you know, in a different on the other side on the spectrum, I'd say. But I think those virtuous traits should both be celebrated, and they should be celebrated when a man is in a healthy way masculine, so with courage and strength and those things, but also has incorporated those female virtuous traits, because then you have a balanced whole man who has strength, who has courage, but also perception, understanding, and compassion. Same is true for a woman, you know. Someone who is gracious, someone who is compassionate and understanding and perceptive, but also has strength and courage to stand up for herself, to see what's right. And, you know, I think that it's a very to me, it's, you know, crystal clear, you know. And I think right now that should be brought back into our media. And, you know, another thing I want to mention was that I don't think men and women should both be 50% masculine and 50% feminine. No, I think it's to be celebrated that men are more masculine and embody those masculine traits more, and women are more feminine and embody those feminine traits more. I think this is exactly what complements us as a species to each other, and which is obviously most fruitful in a relationship, you know, because you're a small society when you create a family, and a relationship in itself as well. So, and I think a man and a woman are supposed to, you know, work together and complement each other each other's traits, and even though we should both be balanced with the virtuous traits, masculine and feminine, the woman will always be more feminine than the man. Not always, of course, but usually, and I think that's very good. I think that's healthy, and that's what complements us, you know, because when the man starts to maybe become unaware or a bit rash in certain things, then the woman can say, you know, hey, look around, you know, look at yourself, look at what you're doing, because obviously that's a more perceptive trait. Or when the woman maybe with some certain social groups starts to not be able to stand up for herself because she doesn't have that courage maybe to stand up for herself or for something else, and the man can say, hey, you should be able to say that, or you should go out and just say it. You know, we complement each other, and I think that's beautiful, and I think that should be celebrated more. And right now everything's, you know, all upside down, and that's shown in the media, in the characters we see on the screen these days. Because when we look at characters from books or movies which are older, then we can see sometimes a little bit more balance. Obviously you still have, you know, especially that male and female stereotype of the male who has those a little bit more toxic traits attributed to him, the rashness, the indulgence in certain pleasures where it's just stupid, and the female who is, you know, doesn't stand up for herself and is, you know, those are certain stereotypes obviously which are also not good, and I think you should look at media that portrays them in the right light and celebrate that, or obviously media which looks at those traits and you know, where the character maybe goes through an arc and sees what's wrong, you know. It's like, for example, Lord of the Rings. I think that's a pretty good example of femininity and masculinity. Maybe not perfect, but you know. So yeah, that's what I want to say today. Virtuous feminine and masculine traits to be celebrated, and yeah, let's try and remain aware of what's right and wrong, and yeah, that's it. Have a good day.